So what was life like growing up in Queens?
Well, I grew up from age 0 to age 16 in Jamaica Estates, which is sort of a nice middle class neighborhood in Queens. And it was nice. You know, I had an elementary school a block and a half away, so I only had to walk from second grade to sixth grade. Then I had to take two buses to go to junior high school 216, which was in Fresh Meadows sort of area. And it was good. You know, I can't complain. And it was nice, sort of like, wasn't like the country, but it was, you know, I had a lawn. My dad had bought a decent house. Let me give you a little idea of what it was like back in those days. My father bought that house in 1941 for $9,000. So it shows you how far 9 grand went in 1941. And it was like the country back in those days. There were literally 2 blocks away was all woods. If you think about what Queens is like today, you know, where it's all sort of covered with houses and stores and apartment buildings. But when I was a little boy, there was woods. So you could go in parks, and it was much different than it is today. So it was good. No complaints.
What inspired you to become a musician?
Well, I would say listening to the radio, mostly. I used to listen to AM radio because that's all there was when I was, growing up. Before there was FM, and there used to be 4 or 5 rock stations on the radio when I was growing up. There was WMCA, WMGM, and there was 2 or 3 others. WINS, before it turned into news, it was a rock station, believe it or not. And 1010 and 1050 were both rock stations. And I had a little plastic radio next to my bed, and I used to listen to all the rock stations, and are very influential considering what your dad does for a living. All the DJs were very influential on the kind of music you could listen to. And very influential DJ was Alan Freed, and another influential DJ named Peter Tripp. And on WMCA was the MCA Good Guys, and they used to play top 40 music. And I used to like top 40 music and listen to it. And this is maybe just after Elvis Presley was popular and before the Beatles became popular. So I'd say I was listening to that kind of music maybe from 1957, 58 until I went away to college, and I was listening to Roy Orbison and Del Shannon and all the end of the doo-wop era until the British invasion. And that inspired me to want to be in a band.
Are there any instruments that you've always wanted to play?
That's a very good question, but I never had the desire to do the work it takes to learn them. And that would be probably violin. And I took violin lessons for maybe a couple of weeks because, you know, when you're in the 4th or 5th grade and you have to take an instrument, my son took violin and I wanted to learn with him. I figured if it was a father-son thing, he would learn better. So there's a very good violin player named Mark Wood on Long Island, and he is in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra now. And so Mark was a friend of mine, and I asked if he would give me and my son violin lessons. So we started taking violin lessons together, and my son did not take to it. And I wanted to keep doing it, and my son didn't. So it went away, and I never stuck with it. And my son started taking saxophone instead, and that was the end of my violin career. but I wish I had stuck with it.
I've heard that you've studied modern languages, and if so, do you speak any other ones aside from English?
I was a language major in college. I do speak fair Spanish and conversational French. I can take a French menu and help you order. I can get around France okay. Got a little conversational French. I can ask directions in French. I can get a receipt from the toll taker in French. And French and Spanish mostly. I'm much better in Spanish than French. And a smattering of conversational German, but not really very good. I can go to a German restaurant and tell you what's on the menu, but that's about it.
So what's your favorite song to perform on stage?
Another good question. Well, everybody loves hearing our two hits, which is Burning for You, Don't Fear the Reaper. Those are, people ask, are you ever tired of playing those songs? And my answer is absolutely not. And that's because everybody loves to hear them. And I'm sure if you walked out the door of your house and everybody was applauding every time you went outside, you would say, this is great. So when we play those songs and everybody applauds and they're happy to hear those songs. So we're never tired of playing them. They always seem to work. We're always happy to play them. And any songs that people are happy to hear, we're glad to play.
Are you looking forward to going on concert tours when it's safe to do so?
Absolutely. Since last March of 2020, we've only played 2 shows. And we probably would have played about 70 or 80. So we've missed all that work. And speaking for myself and probably all the other members as well, we miss all that work. Not only just the financial side, but the camaraderie of hanging out with each other. And we don't miss the travel because the travel is crappy. But the playing the venues, musicians, any musician you ask, he wants to work, he wants to play, and does not want to be sitting at home, wants to be out playing. So I'm sure you get a universal answer from every musician that they wish they were playing more.
What was it like to live through the summer of love?
My goodness. Well, the summer of 67, I just graduated from college, and it's a long answer, Sophie, so I'll make it as short as I can. I wound up going to working part of that summer in a band, and by the mid-July, that band stopped working, and I wound up going to Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is Cape Cod, and worked as a waiter. Actually, I worked as a dishwasher that whole summer in Provincetown, and had a fabulous time because I was just in my early 20s. And even though everyone talks about San Francisco and California and what a great time they all had, there was a very similar scene in Cape Cod at that time. A lot of hippy-dippy times with the same kind of scene in Cape Cod at that time. And at the end of that summer, with maybe 10 days to go, I got a call from my bass player actually, that the band was going to reform in the Thousand Islands, which is up around Watertown, New York, that the band had work. Could I drop everything and be up by Clayton, New York, in the Thousand Islands by the next night? So, true story, I ran around to everybody in town to say goodbye, quit my job, lost an end of summer bonus. Thank God my car started because I hadn't driven it in weeks, and left Provincetown after spending the whole summer there, and drove overnight like 9 hours straight, got to Clayton, New York, played 2 weekends in a row of work, and never stopped ever since.
Who have been some of your favorite people to meet and work with?
Well, we never made it, I would say, to the A level, like your Rolling Stones or Beatles or any bands like that. But I did meet the Rolling Stones once It was kind of a thrill. I met Elton John, shook his hand. That was kind of a wonderful thing. Um, and I understand he likes our music, which was nice to hear. Uh, Never really met a Beatle. I would like to. Do you hear that, Paul? Ringo? Blue Oyster Cult would like to say hi. Um, the And I understand Paul hangs out on Long Island, so I'm available. Maybe he'd like to co-write some songs. You never know. Uh, there's you never know. Like in 50 years, I've played with a lot of people. I've met some, like some pretty cool guys. Like all the guys in Styx are really nice guys. All the guys in Cheap Trick are really nice guys. Joan Jett's a great person. I can't even think of them all. There's just so many.
What led you into forming Blue Oyster Cult, and how did you come up with the name for your band?
Well, I'll give you a really short answer because there's a really long answer. But our original manager and mentor, Sandy Pearlman, who really formed the band and created it, he wrote a song called Blue Oyster Cult. And we needed a name really quickly because we were doing an audition. And we couldn't use the name we had because we had already been rejected. So we had a list of names, maybe 16 names that we all thought of. Blue Oyster Cult was not one of them. So we figured they were going to pick something from that list. And we told our manager, we can't decide because we're 5 guys. None of us could agree. So we told our manager, you pick it. So they left the room and came back and said, we got it. We said, yeah, what is it? He goes, Blue Oyster Cult. And we said, what the hell is that? And it was a lyric from a song he had written, or actually a poetry he had written. And we had said, well, you pick it, and he picked it. And it's 50 years later, and here we are.
What was the coolest thing that's happened to you in your music career, and how did the pandemic affect everything?
Well, the pandemic stopped us from working. That's obvious, and not just us, just about everybody, and not just music either. I have good friends who are comedians, and other people who work in entertainment. You just can't do live work. What was the first part of the question?
What was the coolest thing that's happened to you in your music career?
Well, that's pretty subjective. I guess I would have to say headlining Madison Square Garden. That's pretty cool, which was fun. We did 1980 or 81. We headlined Madison Square Garden with Black Sabbath. It was called Black and Blue. And it was a very big tour. We toured all around the United States. We played all the biggest rooms with Black Sabbath. And I can't remember exactly how many shows. I'm sure that could be looked up. But that was pretty exciting. And, Billboard, which is like the Bible of the music business, put it down as one of the most successful tours in America that year. And that, I think, answers the question.